In 2021, the global economy ran short of semiconductors. Car manufacturers shut assembly lines. Ford lost $2.5 billion in revenue. General Motors cancelled entire vehicle models. Apple delayed iPhone production. Sony could not make PlayStation 5 consoles fast enough to meet demand. The shortage cost the global economy an estimated $500 billion in lost output from a supply disruption that affected components measuring billions of a meter. The bottleneck traced back to a single company on a single island operating a cluster of factories in a city called Hsinchu on the northwest coast of Taiwan. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, manufactures approximately 92% of the world's most advanced microchips. Every AI server Nvidia ships, every iPhone Apple designs, every processor AMD and Qualcomm put into the devices used daily across the developed world. All of it is made at TSMC. This is not a supply chain vulnerability, it is a civilizational choke point, and it exists because one man invented a business model in 1987 that the rest of the world is still trying to replicate 37 years later. Chang was 55 years old when he founded TSMC in 1987. He had spent 25 years at Texas Instruments and had watched the semiconductor industry operate as a vertically integrated business. Every company that designed chips also built them, requiring billions in capital expenditure that made it nearly impossible for new entrants to compete. Chang invented something different, the pure-play foundry model, a company that only manufactures chips for anyone who needs them using the client's own designs. He separated chip design from chip manufacturing, making it possible for companies to become what the industry calls fabless, meaning they could design world-class semiconductors without owning a single factory. This created the modern technology ecosystem as it exists today. Nvidia was founded in 1993 by engineers who wanted to design graphics processors without building a fab. Qualcomm, ARM, AMD's current business model, Apple's in-house chip division, all of them exist because TSMC made it commercially viable to design chips without manufacturing them. Without the foundry model, none of these companies would exist in their current form. The iPhone as we know it would not exist, modern artificial intelligence would not exist. But the foundry model was only the beginning. What made TSMC genuinely irreplaceable was what happened over the following 3 decades. Sustained, compounding investment in a manufacturing process so technically demanding that it has no parallel in human industry. Semiconductor fabrication is the most precise manufacturing process ever developed. Modern chips contain transistors measured in nanometers. A nanometer is 1/100000th of a meter, roughly the width of 10 hydrogen atoms placed side by side. TSMC's most advanced production process as of 2024 operates at 2 nanometers. At that scale, the laws of quantum mechanics begin to interfere with manufacturing precision. The equipment required costs hundreds of millions of dollars per unit. The clean rooms where fabrication occurs must maintain contamination levels thousands of times cleaner than a hospital operating theater. A single human hair, if it fell on a production wafer, would destroy the entire batch. TSMC's market share in advanced semiconductor manufacturing, chips at 7 nanometers and below, is approximately 92%. Samsung holds most of the remaining 8%. Intel, despite having invented the microprocessor in 1971 and having operated semiconductor fabrication facilities for over 50 years, currently cannot manufacture chips at TSMC's leading process node. The gap between TSMC and its nearest competitors is not measured in months, it is measured in years. TSMC achieved commercial 5-nanometer production in 2020. Intel's equivalent process did not reach commercial production until 2024, a 4-year lag that Intel has spent tens of billions of dollars attempting to close without success. Samsung's advanced node production yields, the percentage of chips on each wafer that function correctly, remain significantly below TSMC's equivalent. In semiconductor manufacturing, yield is everything. A process that produces 70% functional chips is not marginally worse than one producing 90%. It is the difference between profitability and operating at a loss. TSMC's yield advantages at advanced nodes are believed by analysts to be substantial, a function not of any single engineering breakthrough, but of decades of accumulated process refinement that cannot be replicated by writing a check. TSMC's capital expenditure in 2022 alone was $36 billion. In 2023, it was $32 billion. The company has spent comparable amounts every year for over a decade. The compound effect of that sustained investment in equipment, in process engineering, in materials science, in the institutional knowledge embedded in tens of thousands of engineers, represents a technical lead that cannot be legislated or subsidized into existence on a short timeline. Every major American technology company is operationally dependent on TSMC in a way that has no near-term alternative. Nvidia's H100 and H200 AI training chips, the physical infrastructure of the artificial intelligence revolution currently reshaping every industry, are manufactured exclusively at TSMC. Without TSMC fabricating those chips, there is no Nvidia product to sell. Without Nvidia's chips, the AI build-out being conducted simultaneously by Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta stops. The largest capital expenditure cycle in the history of the technology industry, over $300 billion in AI infrastructure investment projected for 2025, is predicated entirely on TSMC's continued operation. Apple manufactures its complete line of in-house processors, the A-series chips in iPhones and iPads, the M-series chips in MacBooks and Mac desktops, exclusively at TSMC. Apple's market capitalization, which has exceeded $3 trillion, depends on products that cannot physically exist without a specific set of factories in Taiwan. AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom, MediaTek, and dozens of other semiconductor companies that collectively supply the processors in virtually every smartphone, laptop, server, data center, and networking device on Earth are all TSMC customers with no viable alternative supplier at comparable process nodes. The U.S. Department of Defense uses chips manufactured at TSMC in its most advanced weapons systems, communications infrastructure, and signals intelligence platforms. The American military's most technologically sophisticated capabilities are dependent on a factory located 110 miles from mainland China. The strategic implication of TSMC's position is the most misunderstood element of the entire Taiwan question. The conventional framing presents Taiwan's security as primarily a function of American military deterrence, carrier strike groups, the Taiwan Relations Act, the deliberate ambiguity of Washington's security commitment. That framing captures part of the calculus. It misses the more fundamental constraint on Chinese action. If China were to invade Taiwan and damage or destroy TSMC's fabrication facilities through military action, deliberate sabotage, or simply the disruption of the specialized supply chains required to keep advanced fabs operational, the immediate consequence would be a global economic catastrophe on a scale that has no modern precedent. TSMC's most advanced fabs took years to construct. They require specialized equipment, primarily the extreme ultraviolet lithography machines manufactured exclusively by ASML in the Netherlands that carry global lead times of 1 to 2 years per unit under normal conditions, longer under crisis conditions. Rebuilding TSMC's advanced production capacity from scratch would take a minimum of 3 to 5 years even under ideal conditions. During that period, 92% of the world's advanced semiconductor supply would not exist. The economic consequences of that disruption across automotive, consumer electronics, telecommunications, data centers, defense, and artificial intelligence would run into the tens of trillions of dollars. Every government, every corporation, and every consumer in the developed world would feel it within months. Critically, this catastrophe would fall on China itself. Huawei, Xiaomi, and Alibaba's cloud division all depend on chips manufactured at TSMC or using TSMC-derived processes. China's military modernization program requires advanced semiconductors. A destroyed TSMC does not give China access to leading-edge chip manufacturing. It gives nobody access to it. TSMC is also reported to maintain contingency protocols that would render its most advanced equipment inoperable in the event of an invasion, preventing the technology from falling into Chinese hands intact and functional. Maurice Chang has publicly stated that a Chinese military takeover would make TSMC not operable. The most valuable manufacturing asset in human history has a self-destruct mechanism. Taiwan's deterrence is not primarily military, it is economic. The island is protected by its own indispensability. The United States Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act in 2022, allocating $52 billion in manufacturing subsidies to encourage semiconductor production on American soil. TSMC announced plans for 2 fabrication facilities in Phoenix, Arizona. The first, targeting the 4nm process node, was originally scheduled to begin production in 2024. The second, targeting 2nm, was projected for 2028. Both projects have encountered substantial difficulties. Construction costs in Arizona ran significantly higher than comparable projects in Taiwan. TSMC publicly cited a shortage of skilled semiconductor manufacturing technicians in the United States, a workforce that Taiwan has spent decades training. The first Arizona fab's opening was delayed by more than a year. Senior TSMC engineers relocated from Taiwan reported operational and cultural challenges in transplanting the company's manufacturing discipline to a different labor market and regulatory environment. Intel's $20 billion Ohio fabrication complex and Samsung's $17 billion Texas facility face structurally identical challenges. Semiconductor manufacturing expertise is not a technology that transfers by funding announcement. It accumulates through decades of engineering refinement, workforce development, equipment calibration, and process iteration that exists inside the institutions and people who built the industry. Independent analysts estimate that TSMC's Arizona operations will run at yields and unit costs meaningfully below its Taiwan equivalent for at least 5 to 10 years after opening, if they reach competitive parity at all. The CHIPS Act was a necessary investment. It is not a solution to the dependency it was designed to address. Here is what the Taiwan question actually is. It is not primarily a military question. It is not primarily a sovereignty question. It is the most consequential economic question of the 21st century, and it has been hiding in plain sight because most people do not understand what a semiconductor foundry does. One company on one island, through 37 years of sustained compound investment and manufacturing refinement, has positioned itself as the choke point for the technology that powers every advanced economy on Earth. TSMC's market capitalization exceeded $800 billion in 2024. It is the most valuable company in Asia, not because of a product you can hold, but because of a manufacturing process so advanced, so technically demanding, and so difficult to replicate that the entire global technology industry has no alternative. Taiwan has geography. It has the Taiwan Strait. It has American security commitments and a well-equipped military of its own. But the deepest layer of protection Taiwan possesses is the chip. The moment TSMC stops running, the global economy stops with it, including China's. That is a deterrent no aircraft carrier, no missile defense system, and no diplomatic framework has ever equaled. The most valuable island on Earth is not valuable because of what is under its soil. It is valuable because of what is being built at 2 nanometers inside its cleanrooms.